I'm Jim Donio, and welcome to String Band Sessions Podcast. Our next series of podcasts is entitled Concept to Creation. I will be talking to representatives from all 14 string bands about how they are planning and developing their ideas for the 2026 Mummers Parade. So, I'm here now with brothers, Nick and Tim Magenta from Polish American String Band. Nick is the captain, and Tim is the costume designer for the band. So we will talk about that. But Tim, do you also play an instrument in the band?
Yeah, I play the snare on New Year's.
You do?
Yep.
And have you always, were you a musician in the band?
Yeah.
Long before you started designing costumes?
I think I was 13 the first year I played.
Okay.
Then the first year I designed was the toy year. Remember what year that was?
I do not. I'm not good at years.
Okay. A few years ago.
2015.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
So, from the standpoint of art and design and whatever, so and graphic design, what is your background to bring you to doing that for the band?
Not formally. It was me sitting down in my parents' basement doing my version of alterations or whatever the theme committee wanted. My dad was the chairman of the theme committee, whatever those years were. So I would hear him talk about them, what they discussed in meetings, and then I would kind of do my take on it. At that time, it was Bob Finnegan who was doing our sketches.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if my dad ever did it, but he said, I'll show it to the theme committee, and see what they think. Probably never showed them. Probably just threw him in his briefcase. But, he said, oh yeah, the theme committee liked it, but they're going to go with what Bob, gave us.
And did you learn from Bob?
No,
do you feel?
no, I kind of just, kept going at it year after year, and then I went away to art school, and probably some point during there is when I started.
Okay. So you did go to art school?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that your profession as well?
Yeah. I adjunct teach. I have a full-time job, but I adjunct teach. I'll be teaching at PCAD this year. Yeah.
Okay.
I do that.
Okay.
Well.
So from one adjunct to another, I'm
Yeah.
I'm an adjunct professor at Temple University, where I teach music business.
Nice.
So how long have you been captain?
I think this is 13 for me. This will be year 13.
Wow.
Too long.
That's gone by super fast. And just for, for our viewers and our fans, so your dad, both of your dad, Stan,
Yep.
He was the captain
1990 to 93.
prior to you being the captain. And are there any other Magentas in the band?
So it's just us three, but we have a long family history going back to my grandfather on my dad's side. So he joined way back in 1962. Then my dad joined in 1970. And then on my mom's side, my Uncle Rick joined in 1976. My grandfather on my mom's side joined in 1980. Mm-hmm. And then there's a bunch of cousins after that. One time, I think there was 12 or 13 of us
Really?
marching all together. So yeah, definitely rich in family history for sure.
So just the three of you are currently now?
Just Magenta, but we have other families still in the band.
Other family.
Our drum master, Rick Hagenbach. So that's our cousin. My Uncle Rick is still in the band. We also have our other cousins.
So there's an extended
Tommy.
family.
Oh yeah. Tommy,
And
Eric, Jason, they're still in the band.
And your kids are young,
They're
so
still young.
not at that
Yeah,
point.
my son's only 4, so he's got a little bit.
He's got a little ways
He's
to
got a
go.
little
Not
ways.
too long, because they do
Yeah.
get started sooner than that. So Polish American is the last of the cultural heritage bands. At one point, we had Irish American, Italian American, Ukrainian American. So I think that's always been obviously something special about all of these bands that brought together that cultural heritage. So tell people, so where is the band headquartered?
Yep, so we're in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. Through the years, we bounced around from different clubhouses, but in 2009, we actually settled down and bought our own place, and done extensive work to it, remodeled the whole clubhouse to what you see today. But we're very proud of that. We have a very large following in our community. Our neighbors support us tremendously, and there's still a large Polish contingent in Port Richmond.
That's what I was going to ask.
And that's great for us because they support us, we support them. So yeah, that's good.
And they feel, I think they feel a sense of cultural pride.
For sure,
And maybe
yeah.
even a little ownership of
Absolutely.
this is our,
Yep,
you
this is
know,
our heritage.
This is our
Yeah.
heritage. This
Yeah,
is our
absolutely.
band. So also Polish American has a very successful winning record over the years, which I'm sure you're proud of as well. So let's make a transition. This is our concept to creation. So we have a lumberjack concept, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going from that concept to what we're actually, going to see. So how was this idea chosen for 2026? Were there lots of other ideas? Obviously, it's Lumberjacks has been done before.
Sure, yeah.
Others have done it. So why this choice?
We had a long list of themes right after New Year's when we kind of had our wrap-up meeting about what, good things and bad things from last year. So, I mean, how many did we have? At least
There's always a
10
list
that
of
we,
themes. You always got a list of themes in the bucket.
yeah. But we wanted to, our list of goals that we established, we kind of wanted to stay in a similar realm of what we did last year, with the hillbilly theme. The guys really responded to the energy and the whole feel of the show, having driving music the entire time, acting, I always say, we're a bunch of idiots and we like to just act like a bunch of idiots. So that type of theme kind of helps, worked for us.
So it's
kinda in the same realm.
so it's character driven,
Yeah.
as opposed to, an ambiance or, sort of a general idea,
Yeah.
to play something, to play a character, to use, as many bands do now, use humor,
Yeah.
in that vein as well. So they settle on the idea, and then it comes to you to pull out of your brain. So how is this getting depicted? As I said, I'm sure you've looked at the other bands who've done this before to see. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Looked at what others have done. So what will be your version of this? What will be PA's version of Lumberjacks, and what will make it different?
I guess we'll start with the process, and maybe that'll kind of answer it. We don't-
Okay.
We try not to stay, in the box, because sometimes a theme that's been done before, it's very easy to kind of get stuck in those ideas and just regurgitate them.
Right.
So early on in the process, just laying out anything, that we could put in the show. I know I try to help the conversation this way, but kind of, so if you think of Lumberjacks, all right, you're gonna saws, logs, the typical things that'll get rattled off right away. But then as we keep meeting and we, as the meeting's going, the more obscure things, what can be something that's super obscure that could relate to Lumberjacks, but then we could not just keep rattling off things related to that, and that eventually builds up into something. We never even thought to do that at the beginning of the meeting.
So do you do?
Some of that.
So I'm sure there's back and forth. We talked about this before we started our interview. There's got to be back and forth. I'm sure the first sketch that you do is not like the end. I don't think is not the end sketch. So you do go back and forth, and there's a committee, I'm assuming, of people, and everybody has their own sort of take on. Oh, I like this. I don't like that. And then it's through that process that you come up with, what the final result is going to be. So do you do the sets, the set design as
I'll
well?
design them and paint them too.
Okay. And who writes the music? Who's the arranger?
Yep, our arranger is Chris Moore. He's great at what he does. We're definitely very fortunate to have Chris and have him not only part of our band, but arranging our music as well. So it's nice to keep it in-house. We're very fortunate to have most of our vendors,
yeah. I mean,
our
it's
designer, our painter, our music director, our music arranger in-house. It's unique and it's great
it
to
is.
have.
And there's only, out of 14 bands, there's only like
So
a
much,
couple of
yeah.
instances of that, which I think is great. So, so inspiration. So for a concept for a theme like this, so you're sitting down and you're trying to come up with it. So movies, TV, do you find ideas in those areas? Broadway.
Yeah, a lot of my doom scrolling in between, February and June on my phone is, not on social media, but I'll be just, researching pictures and just, scrolling through Pinterest, dabbling in, anything that'll, kind of generate some ideas. Or watch movies. I'll list, some movies that I know I can watch, that can maybe just start to jog some ideas. The one that I didn't anticipate was actually for our hillbilly theme last year. We planned, my wife and I planned a road trip kind of going down to the Smoky Mountains. And then we, went through Kentucky and West Virginia, and that was actually very beneficial. And I was going through general stores and, seeing all the old gas stations. And so something completely unintentional. And then I got a couple custom ideas just from the stuff that I saw.
So
anything
you were exposing yourself to the atmosphere, around, what the concept, would be. Since you brought up last year, I have to throw this out there because I did, and I've talked about this before. So I'm at City Hall. I was stationed there, helping to officiate the bands. And you did the performance, and you walked off, and like all of a sudden I started like humming something in my head, and I said, "Oh, it was the Hatfields and the McCoys. Oh, that was the theme song of Family Feud." I thought, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant thing. And so a lot of what I've been talking about with a couple of the musical directors and others involved with putting the shows together for this podcast series is the scores now have gotten so complex and so detailed that even a transition from one song to the next can convey something or can be used to advance the storyline, as well. So you have somebody internally that's doing that. So does that help? Is that really valuable? Because you can like think of something and say, can you write that? Or let's see how that could be written.
I mean, just for instance, like you said, the Family Feud thing, I don't even think that actually happened at a meeting. It was like an after meeting, sit around chattering and, just talking about random things. Somebody mentioned Family Feud and was like, that would be a great idea.
It's just
and
brilliant. It's a brilliant.
I was like, oh, that's that sounds silly. And then it just
No, it's not silly.
Like,
I think it was brilliant, and I think it really because it's something that people know and people hear that. It's like, and it was for me, it was like this earworm that was like after the fact. That was Family Feud.
So when you talk about it, right away the next day, Chris was in that conversation, and the next day it's right
there it is. So, can you tell us a little bit maybe about what your role in this may be? Has that been discussed already?
Mostly, we don't know entirely. There's a concept for sure, but most likely it's probably going to lean towards the Paul Bunyan character.
Okay.
That's not a secret.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's we're leaning towards Paul Bunyan and Babe the Big Blue Ox.
Okay.
He's the blue ox.
They probably would like
maybe not blue.
They probably would like to make me the blue ox.
Maybe not blue.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So timeline. So where do things, obviously the sketches are done, and so we know that process is, well on its way, but how much of the music has the band received so far?
So we're about halfway there.
Half of the score?
Halfway there. Every meeting that we have, it seems like we come up with something better, and we go back and say, oh, let's change that.
Okay.
Or let's, adjust that a little bit. It comes back to features, what kind of instruments we're trying to feature, whether it be a banjo or if there's some other type of percussion
Right.
feature that we're trying to do, so that kind of affects things. But yeah, we're about halfway there, maybe a little bit farther. But
Or when we hear it and it just doesn't have the right feel that we want it to capture in that moment, then go back to the
yep,
list
yeah.
and
So probably within the next month, we'll have the full thing or most.
Okay.
And it's always evolving. Once you start playing, things don't sound quite like you envisioned them. You might have to draw on board a little bit, but
And who is the presentation director? Who's the drill master
Rick
of
Rick
presentation?
Hegmark the third. He's
Okay, your cousin.
Yeah, another
The cousin.
family member, yeah.
Okay. So do you two like butt heads at all, or is it really collaborative?
a little bit
of course
both.
we do. But that's not until, getting closer to New Year's with the drill and everything. And,
Okay.
I don't know, it'll probably be something, where I'll go up to him and be like, that wasn't supposed to be like that. I didn't think it was going to happen like that. Well, I didn't know it was going to happen like that. Or, and then we eventually work it out.
You work it all out.
Handshake at the end.
We all have our own opinions, but there's nothing we can't work through.
Well, and it's one of those things where when we talk about this show, it's about concept to creation. So you can have a concept, you can have an idea, and then at a certain point, with all this creative input, at a certain point, you just have to say, okay,
This is
like
what we're doing.
this is it.
Stand up.
This is what we're doing. I know of bands that have like changed even part of the music like very close to the end, which is crazy, but I know that
we all do
happens.
it. Yeah, we all do it.
Everybody, like an idea just says, oh, let's put that in there. So in terms of the set design, so do you do them kind of simultaneously? Are you doing the costumes and the sets to kind of integrate everything from the get-go, or costume has to be completely finished and then you think about the sets?
Ideally, it would be nice to. Sometimes it does happen all together, and that's the perk of me being there in a lot of the meetings. And I work on my iPad, and we put it up on the TV, so in real time I can just start sketching things out as people are talking. So something that can be just a real rough doodle, it actually I'll just refine it, and because everybody kind of really liked that first approach.
Yeah.
And
So, as a former designer myself, of course, in the days that I was doing it, everything was just completely, by hand. So, do you utilize, digital tools? Do you use artificial intelligence at all?
So, yes, and sometimes. Moved to working on the iPad digitally 3 or so years ago. It made everything really efficient. Changes that can, if I present sketches and I can change those colors, we want this to be a little darker, I can swap the,
Yeah.
because everything's in layers, so I can just swap it out.
Yeah.
There is a perk to the print. Well, they all get printed, for the costumer.
For the costumers, yeah.
But there is a perk to the hand-drawn sketches. But in terms of efficiency, yeah, the digital kind of has its benefits.
And there is an element of AI in what you do as well?
I mean, I feel like you'd have to be stupid to not explore it and see, what it's used. But I mean, you still have to make it a costume. You still have to be able to make it something that,
Functional.
yeah, functional.
Well, and also it's like a human person
Yeah.
has to wear it. And this was another fight that I'm thinking about from my days gone by of the hats, because you have to be able to hear and see,
Yeah.
and then you add makeup or a mask to it, and like all of those elements. There is probably a fair amount of trial and error with that. Like, put it on an actual person.
Yeah.
And can you see? Can you hear? When we put your makeup or your mask on, does that change anything? And then we got to go back, like you said, and maybe something gets tweaked. So, concluding, so do we have maybe like a working title we're talking about at this
No
point?
title yet. We usually save that for later. later in the mum season, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So no title. See what happens.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, no,
Well,
no.
that's
I mean,
chaotic.
I'm sure there's ideas that are getting kicked around.
Always, yeah, there's always. And it's one of those things where we'll come up with a theme title or somebody will put an idea out there and then you see something where somebody comes up with
Yeah.
something, but we always save it for the end.
Well, and also, I mean, titles have taken on a different degree of importance and influence than they used to,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
because you can grab someone.
Yep.
Um,
It's a catchy
and-
title,
Yeah,
kinda.
and you can stand out.
Yeah.
Something can stand out. And like I said, with the Family Feud earworm, also the title coming in
Yep.
and leaving, kind of it tells you something, or if it
Yep.
sticks with you,
Yep.
then that's something I'm sure.
Locks you in.
Yeah, well, I'm
It
sure
intrigues
it's
you a little bit.
Yeah, it's part of the judges. I mean, the judging criteria is also much more complicated than it used to be. So there's like nuances of where the visual and the overall and the musical and the creative elements
So many
kind of
pieces.
are all overlapping each other. So
How's
the
it all-
title can rise above all of that and kind of grab you or say something to you. Yeah. Thank you guys so
Tim,
much.
thank you so much for having
Thank you,
us.
Nick.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tim, so
meeting you.
much. So that's Nick and Tim Magenta, the brothers Magenta from Polish American String Band for String Band Sessions podcast. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am here with my fellow Temple alums.
That's right.
Music director Dave Zagorski, presentation director Bob Thiel from the Fralinger String Band, here with us for Concept to Creation on our String Band Sessions podcast. So Dave, how long with Fralinger?
Since, what's that, March of '07. So do the math. I mean, it's 18 years, yeah.
So you came in the middle of the 8-peat.
I went up and got 6, 7, and 8. So yeah, I was in there the last three of that run.
The last three of
Yeah,
that ride,
yep.
which we'll touch on in a minute. And your instrument?
Saxophone. I'm a
Saxophone.
woollen player from Temple, so
And had you been in another band prior
Greater-
to Fralinger?
Greater Kensington.
For how long?
Since '91 until February of '07.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a music director there.
So other family in string bands?
My dad he joined Kensington. My brother and I ended up joining when we were of age.
Mm-hmm.
And then he retired later. After I was done being music director, my brother said, always wanted to go to the Fralinger. He went to Fralinger, and that was like our Tuesday night thing. So I'm like, yeah, I'll be down. So now that was it. Now he's retired. He's younger than me, but his legs are shot. He was a percussionist, so yeah.
And how long have you been the music director?
This will be my third New Year's. Right? Yeah.
Third year. And who does the arranging?
Oh, Chris Farr
Chris Farr does the arranging.
for our New Year's, absolutely.
So you're the tag team. And Bob, so how long with Fralinger?
I was in Fralinger. This is my second stint in Fralinger. I was in Fralinger from '93 to 2004, and then I came back in 2018.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
You left in the midst
I did.
of
I got sick of winning. I
You
said,
left.
You know what?
You
Yeah.
left in the midst of
I
the,
did,
of the
I did,
8-peat,
I did,
which
yeah.
so I've mentioned that twice.
Yeah.
So I should say for those who don't know what we're talking about, the 8-peat. So Fralinger has the record for the most consecutive first place victories, 8 years in a row,
Mm-hmm.
from 2003 to 2010. So do you have other family in
Yeah.
Fralinger or other bands?
Yeah, my son's in Fralinger with me. Also, my daughter, Riley Thiel, who's also a choreographer, and Brad Bowen have a baby together, my granddaughter, Blake. So it's kind of all intertwined there. Then I have a ton of friends and stuff in
Okay.
other bands. But yeah, family and stuff
Yeah,
across the parade in all the divisions, actually.
I saw her. She was running around. Your granddaughter was running around at the luau.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was.
So if you watch that episode, You have to watch carefully. But
Yeah, I
if you
saw it.
watch that episode,
Yeah.
you've seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see her running around,
Yeah, I saw it.
in the background.
Yeah.
And what do you play?
I play the banjo.
You play the
Yes.
banjo. Okay, for sure. So I have to ask, because this is just an obvious, I think, question to ask. So what has it been like, following in the footsteps of two of the most like iconic string band visionary creators of, I'm going to say of all time, Mike
Oh.
Rayer, who was the longtime visionary drill master for Fralinger, and Herbie Smith, longtime visionary music director.
Change the sound of string bands.
Yeah. So
definitely.
what's what is that like?
I mean,
Do you think about it?
Oh yeah.
well, these two gentlemen, and that's what they are. They are just the utmost,
Yeah.
just quality of just being gentlemen, and with all their success and what they did, leading with presentation and music. These guys are just, okay, do your thing.
Yeah.
We'll support you, and it's great following in that footsteps of those guys. But they also, in the run of the eight, we also had John Wernega, and he was the arranger and music director.
Right.
And then we had Mr. Billy Garton coming in and really working the guys. And that was during that time when music, the point system was different.
Yes.
So Fralinger was, listen to what these guys are playing.
Yeah.
This stuff, and they're moving.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and now it's weighted differently. Music is not as,
Yeah, the
we don't have to do all the technical stuff that we did
Right.
Criteria has gotten more kind of
on the show side.
complex and nuanced in terms of how some of the areas overlap with each other.
Well, the effect.
Yeah.
That's really what,
The
Music
effect.
effect, yeah.
whether it's
Effect.
music effect and then
Yep.
the station effect.
And the visual
Visual.
elements
They go
are now
hand in hand.
are now judged by more than one judge.
Right.
Sometimes they
because
cross over.
overlap.
They
And
do. They do.
And it's
They
like
do.
if you get the visual points, you'll get your music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have that symposium. They kind of touched on that too. Like, they kind of like go for that. It's about visual. It's about what I see. You're not. The one judge even said to us, "Don't worry about making it difficult, because there's not a caption for difficulty in the music." So it kind of
Basically,
different from what it was.
We
Yeah.
can't give you extra credit points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the-
Or
what you
even
do.
I've always thought about, like, there isn't a category for originality.
No.
Right.
There isn't a category for, making an impression in a way that perhaps wasn't done before, like
Right.
doing something different. Like, we think of that
Right.
as people who've been around this for a long time. Oh, yeah, that was really, they did that differently
Right.
than it was done before. And we're actually, that'll be a lead in. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, I will tell you, so Mike and I are very good friends.
Yeah.
So he copiously watches every episode
Oh, yeah.
of this podcast and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
sends me a detailed debrief text
Right.
of his takeaways from
Yeah,
from my interviews, which I love and I really value and appreciate.
But that's
that.
who he is. Like you say, working with Mike in the background. Like Herbie's a different situation. Herbie lives he lives in another state, I think
Right.
9 months out of here. But Mike has never shied away. Like when I first took this over, my first phone call was to Mike, and he did not back away from anything, jump right in full force. And Dave could attest to this. He's at every meeting.
Yeah.
I talk to him 2 or 3 times a week because we get close to New Year's. It's more, but I get those. Like I get that detailed text after a meeting. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Mike has always been the consummate gentleman,
And also, he was an educator, so he has.
and he's
that-
always the
that's where
educator. Yep.
that's
we
the-
meet on
that's
that
the
level,
nature,
being a
and,
music teacher.
And I didn't. I said fellow Temple alums, but I'm actually back at Temple as an adjunct professor.
I
now.
saw that on your
I
profile.
teach
That's-
music business.
That's awesome. Wow.
There.
That's great.
And I think, did I ask you at the beginning, how long have you been the drill?
This is my third year
the
too. Me and
director?
Dave started the same
Both
year.
at the
Yep.
same time.
Yep.
So a little background for people on the Fralinger String Band. So Fralinger was actually started by John Fralinger, who was a pharmacist. He was the captain for more than 30 years. And as we said earlier, Fralinger has the unprecedented first prize winning streak. So you were there for two
yeah.
of the years, 3 and 4.
Right.
And then you came in 7.
Yeah.
So
Or
did you
4.
do 7, 8, 9, 10, or
I
just
did
8, 9,
and 10.
8, 9, and 10?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, as we said,
That was crazy because coming out of Greater Kensington, you drilled it, and at that point it was block stuff and like marching band in a way. But then coming to Fralinger and what John Renega was writing, and I was playing tenor, and I was like, I have to spin and jump, and I have to do. You want my feet to do what and play all
Yeah,
that stuff, and
yeah.
we did it. But again, because Mike was able to break things down in like the education way,
yeah.
just chunk it, and then get more and get more. It's like, oh, I can do this. All right.
Yeah, because he's the consummate teacher from the standpoint of just patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's patient with people.
Very patient.
We actually, so after I was in Hegman String Band for a long time, and then career-wise, I was traveling a lot, so I kind of got out of it for a couple of years, but then I came back and was actually in Golden Crown Fancy Brigade for 5 years.
Oh.
And a lot of people don't know, Mike was actually, helped with putting the presentations together
Yeah.
for
remember that.
Golden Crown.
What years?
Fancy Brigade, 94. My years were 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8,
okay.
94 to 98.
Yeah.
So when I got kind of brought in,
That's like
to
the
be
transfer of time when they went from the live music at the City Hall
98,
to the
98 was the first,
can.
would have been the first year in the convention
Convention
center.
center, yeah.
But I actually came in and worked with Mike
That's
Yeah.
and helped Mike.
Yeah, I remember him doing that.
doing,
Yeah.
I helped him work with the people in the brigade to learn their routines, but we digress. In any case, so tell people where is Fralinger? Where is the band headquarters?
1901 South 3rd Street, right there at 3rd and Mifflin in South Philly.
In South Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're here tonight to talk about concept to creation. Okay, so let's talk about 2026, this undersea concept. Okay, which was actually not
No.
the original initial concept. The original concept was a theme park
Yes.
idea. So let's tell people what happened. So
Yeah.
how did we go from a theme park to Under the Sea?
Yeah, it was basically just looking at what was ahead of us. The other band, there was kind of a conflict, but not really. We were able to get it approved. Quaker City was doing a similar theme called the Fun House, which was more carnival-esque. We were doing theme park, and we did make a good delineation, but I felt like all year it was going to be a struggle to make sure we were separating ourselves from Quaker City. And speaking of lineup, they're right before us in the lineup too, so they would have saw that back to back. So we said to ourselves, we're going to have to concede too many things. We're going to have to put too many things on the back burner. It's such a good theme, that theme park. Let's leave it whole as it is. Put it on the back burner. We went back to the table, had some more themes come up. Boom, bing, bam, boom. Went with the Under the Sea concept.
Okay.
First time Fralinger's ever done Under the Sea.
Okay.
Yeah.
First time for Fralinger.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah,
it's been produced 25 times
Yeah.
over the years. You mentioned Quaker City. So Quaker City won in 2019 with some sort of some version of the Sea
Right.
incorporated. South Philly also some sort of version of it in 2023, and even elements just in 2025 and elements of Uptown's
Right.
Fanta C
Yeah.
SEA theme. So, what's going to be the direction here to do something different from a music and production standpoint?
Well, it's going to be done like it's never done before. You always say that.
Everybody says that.
Well, that's how we started.
Everybody says
that's
that.
how we started.
Jack
That's how we started our theme presentation at the club. It's like it's never been done before.
Okay.
But
And you almost have to start
you
out
do.
from that perspective.
what you do, you got to really try to do
even if
something
it doesn't
different.
bear out,
Right,
you have
right.
to start with that.
And there's going to be some commonality. It's impossible to avoid. I mean, anybody doing it, even if the Broadway shows, they'll always have. If it's a similar tone show, they're going
Right.
to have some similar ideas. But we're going to. It's more the dramatic side, and this is exactly what we told the guys. at the meeting. It's more the dramatic side with some lighthearted moments, some of that other entertaining, like that, the more lighthearted, hokey kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's going to be interspersed throughout. But we're looking at a more dramatic part of it.
So when you say
Theatrical. More
Theatrical, yeah.
theatrical,
Right.
so
Movie scores.
so more atmospheric,
Yes.
yeah.
as opposed to character driven,
Right.
More atmospheric in terms of
Yes.
sort of the look and the feel of
Right.
being in that environment.
Yeah, because that was when we talked, and it was like, I don't want this to be the typical mom
Right.
sound.
Uh-huh.
So like, I was in Kensington when we did Let's Tuna Fish.
Right.
So it's not that. It's not even Furco's
Fish stick.
Fish Stick. Yeah.
Great
So,
title though.
oh yeah, great.
Great theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was mom.
Yeah.
It was that classic mom thing, and we're not doing classic mom, and so we're not merging anything.
Right.
Like a cowboy with this or.
Right.
Okay, yeah, it's
that.
not a
So
combo.
No.
We're not doing combos.
So have you watched some of the 25 times?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
That it's been done before? Because I mean, that's probably good research.
Yeah,
at
well,
least.
well, it's always to see like what else, who did what way, what kind of songs were played and stuff like that. But like Dave said, it's more scores with music. You're going to hear some classic string band under the water kind of things here and there, but there's like 3 or 4 songs already we're playing that I don't think anybody's ever played before. So we're trying to approach it from that more
Okay.
theatrical angle
Okay.
of setting that scene and kind of really immersing yourself into that scene with different types of costumes and
Okay.
stuff
and
like that.
because the judges read the cards, and when we listen to our tapes, the judges' tapes, they say, "Oh yeah, I read your cards and I looked these things up."
Yeah.
So they do their homework.
Yep.
So they're ready,
They're ready for what they're receiving.
right? And it's not the public.
And if they
it's the
have
judges.
sort of some, as I would expect, some preconceived sort
Exactly.
of
Oh, sure they
like
do.
expectations,
Yeah.
and then if you surprise them, sometimes that's
Right.
a good
Sure.
thing. So you mentioned movies, you mentioned movie scores, you mentioned Broadway. So obviously, in both of those instances, we have The Little Mermaid in terms of undersea. So are we thinking that there going to be elements of caricature in this, or is it truly more atmospheric in terms of like mood and feel?
I like that term, atmospheric. What do you use that from
Yeah,
here on out?
I like
Atmospheric.
that.
I like that too.
Yeah,
But it's
we-
because it is that. It's more encompassing of, as opposed to having a little crowd come out and do his tap dance or like Flounder from Little Mermaid,
Uh-huh.
or even like some of the other movies that escaped me. Kind of we talked about as we were developing this theme.
Jaws.
Like
Right.
Jaws and stuff. Well, stuff like that, you're going to like maybe get an ode to, but you're not going to see a lot of the little cutesy thing. It's going to be more like theatrical. There's going to be bigger plays. There's going to be bigger pushes for things, and kind of more to take that whole street and kind of make it see what's
So,
happening there.
so we said theatrical, dramatic, atmospheric,
Yeah.
more of perhaps a little esoteric, more esoteric in terms of kind of the impression that this gives,
Right.
as opposed to cute
Yeah.
kind of little elements.
Exactly. Exactly.
Although,
There'll be cute
There-
little elements
there-
because you have to. I mean, you have to have that
elements of
release
that.
of tension as well for different elements to kind of happen
Yeah.
as well. So there'll be a little bit of that.
And surprises.
And surprises.
and surprises.
And some surprises. Yeah.
What we've talked about with other bands as we've been doing these interviews is the complexity of the score. We didn't even call it a score. Now we call it a score. This 4.5 minute, miniature
Overture.
show, overtures, and
And with exit music.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is- It is
Exactly.
it is complex now because, and this is something that I'm amazed by, because I came up in this at a much more straightforward, much more simplistic arrangements of music.
Right.
That now even a transition from one song to the next may end up being a song or an element
Yeah.
that advances the story
Yep.
or is integral to a particular like prop movement or some sort of feature that's being
Right.
There's always
utilized.
a reason
Yeah.
anymore. There's always a reason
But there's
for what
so
you're
many
playing.
there's so many elements now.
Right.
It could
Right.
be 20 pieces of music
Yeah.
in 4.5 minutes.
Right.
Some of those pieces might be 8 bars,
Right.
but there's an intention
Right.
Right.
there.
Exactly. That's a good way to put up that
Exactly.
intention
There's
for
there's a
whether
reason
it's a
for
small
everything.
transition, and you'll see we're working on a couple of things like that now. Those transitions that have that intention for it, what they're going to see, what they're going to hear, what they're going to look at is going to happen all right in front of them. So there's going to be some surprises there, some things they expect that they're not going to expect at the same time.
Okay.
So, but yeah, like you said, that intention kind of flows throughout the show.
And I can't remember if we said this earlier. So who writes?
Chris
who's,
Farr.
Chris Farr is writing he does the arrangement.
He does the arrangement.
He does the arranging. And costume, who's
Sammy.
design?
Oh.
He's the costumer.
Costume, yeah.
Who's the designer?
Sean Grazer.
Oh,
It's
Sean
our first year
Grazer.
working with Sean, and our
Okay.
first year really working with Sammy too. So
Yes, because you had been
with Ralph,
with others previously.
Ralph before a couple of years.
So timeline. So where do we stand? So how much of the score do we have so far?
It's like 3/4.
Yeah, we're about three
That
quarters.
much,
Yeah.
yeah.
As of
Okay.
yesterday, we got a MIDI file. The way Chris does it, just kind of behind the scenes, he'll write it out and then put it on a MIDI file. So it's a little computerized file of the music. So we got one last night that gets us. I think it was around 3:30, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, so that's
Maybe
pretty,
Yeah, we're in there.
that's pretty far along.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
getting
the
in there.
sketches are done, of course.
Sketches are done.
So that's well in process. So who?
Sketches are done, guys are measured.
Yep.
That's great.
So
Who designs the sets?
David Rigler.
Oh, David does
Yeah,
the sets
yeah,
for you
we
as
work with
well.
him. We just started that process with him. He actually got us our first draft on Thursday, which when I say first draft, I don't know if you've ever worked with David before, but you kind of give him all the information. We give him the layout of the show, what he calls a ground plan for this is what's going to happen here, here, and here. So he says, am I on track here? What am I missing here? What else do we need here? And it's kind of, he does a lot of placeholders, but
Yeah,
we got that first,
He's
first
very
draft in. Yeah.
intentional because
Yeah.
we talked about
Yeah,
intention.
sure.
very intentional and very detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very detailed with what he does. And then how about Dana? So is Dana already?
Yeah, she's already.
Is she already
Yeah,
involved?
Yeah. I see her around the house now and then. So, so yeah, it's I'm always kind of discussing ideas with her throughout the process as well, and that's kind of one of the advantages of having your wife as the choreographer. You get to bounce stuff off her right away.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's been involved, and we started talking about different things we want to try. How long this group is going to be out there? How long is that other group going to come in and stuff like
Okay.
that? So, and other ways she could help. Mike's always good about talking about when he was working with Dana. He would say, "All right, we're being cowboys. Give me 15 cowboy moves." And kind of we're doing the same thing with Richard. Like we're doing this. These are the costumes. What kind of moves can we do for the pit or the dancers or the banjos or
right,
whatever it is? So,
right.
so yeah, we restarted that process as well.
And
so.
how about Brad's role? So you have, one of the younger, dynamic,
Yeah.
captains.
Yeah.
So can you tell us anything about?
He is central to the plot of this theme.
So is there a storyline?
Yeah, there is.
There is a storyline.
With his character being integral and really the part that drives the show forward. And it's something we struggled with the last couple of years where even with the junkyard, he was the king of the junkyard. The year before that, he was the king of the bayou, it was his bayou. But it was never an identifiable character, and that's something I think, and Dave knows as well, we thought we were lacking the last couple of years, where it was like, oh, that's what he is right away. The other clubs that were having more success were saying, oh, that's what the captain is right away. This theme, we had that right away. It was the first thing we knew. He's going to be this guy. This is how he's going to operate throughout this presentation. So
Yeah.
we're really happy
Well,
about
that makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, and it's better too. I mean, it kind of helps drive the show, and he's really into it. Brad's doing a good job of helping develop that character, and he's really involved with every aspect of it too. I don't know how other clubs operate, but he's involved with everything from the music to the prop building to communicating with the marshals, and so we have a really good relationship. The three of us always kind of talking and going back and forth and stuff.
So do we have at this point even like a working title? We have a broad concept, but do we have a working title?
We usually just don't start kicking that around until later on. Yeah, until we actually have to. It's with us. It's always kind of like an afterthought, and then we start, and our group text will kind of start kicking around ideas. But yeah,
Because I've been talking about this obviously with
Yeah.
all the other groups that have come in so far, and I've said, the titles now have become like a really important
Yeah.
element where in the past it was not
Right.
so
No.
essential.
Right.
But now it's like, okay, that's actually that's a thing that you've got to think about because it is how you're being received
Yeah.
before you get there.
Right.
Because the information is shared and what does that engender in my head? And then you're coming up and kind of you see it, okay, there's a visual element. And then after you leave, it's like, okay, does that become, I can't call it an earworm, Does it become a think worm?
Yeah.
Is it something that sticks with the judge?
Right.
As they're
I don't know.
evaluating.
I'm not sure. Do you think?
I do.
I go back and forth with it because we have, like I said, we have a text thread with the theme committee. We'll kind of talk about it and we'll go back and forth. And it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, and people are like, "It's just a title. It's okay. It's just
Sometimes
the
you
title."
you overthink it.
Sometimes
wanna
you
get
overthink
witty.
it. Yeah, and then sometimes you think like we were kicking around. Just as go back to what you're saying about kicking around titles. A gentleman on our theme committee was in Uptown, and Uptown did an underwater theme. It was called a Whale of a Tale. A tale of something like that. And I was like, "Oh, we'll call it that." And they were like, "Yeah, they already did it." Like you said, like fish stick. And then what was GK? What was it called?
Let's
when you
Tuna
guys-
Fish.
Let's tuna fish.
Yeah.
So you try to do these clever little things at
You
the same
know,
time, but
I mean, sometimes
All because of that custard last stand
Yeah.
award.
award.
Yeah.
I forgot about
Well,
that, yeah.
that became like the jumping off point
Right.
to be competitive with the title.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
there was some
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
reward
Yeah.
for it being clever. But I'm thinking of it more from the standpoint of, I think it becomes an element.
Right.
I don't see it as
Right.
kind of a throwaway thing.
Right.
I think it definitely is an element
Yeah.
of like the whole process because as we were talking about, everything does kind of overlap.
Yeah.
And that overall effect, I think the title is part of that overall effect.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it'll be a discussion, and guys will probably within the next month or two, probably about around October, we usually start thinking of what that's going to be.
Thinking about that.
Because then you have that whole show. We'll have regular sets. We'll have a few weeks of drill under our belt. We'll have the music under our belt for a while. So I think guys start kind of stewing and ruminating on it then. So they kind of ideas start popping into your head then, and then there's like regular guys in the band who aren't part of the process, but they'll say, "Oh, what do you about this idea for a theme title?" So you
Yeah.
kind of get that going too.
And sometimes there are years when sometimes it's just very obvious what
Yeah.
it should be.
Right.
And you key on that and then you can't think of it
Right,
any other
right,
way
right.
because it's always that.
Right.
Right.
And then the other side of it is what you just described,
Yeah.
where I almost have to like process and digest like everything
Right.
in order for something to occur.
Right.
That will make sense
Right.
for everybody.
Right. So
for sure.
We'll let you know.
Well, listen,
We'll get back
thank
to
you
you.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great meeting you. I
for
appreciate
coming
it.
and joining us
Thanks
tonight.
for doing that
You're
for us
welcome.
this year.
For our String Band Sessions podcast. That's Bob Thiel and Dave Zagorski from the Fralinger String Band. Thanks for watching the String Band Sessions podcast. Let us know what you think in the comments.